Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this video, I'm just gonna talk about, uh, the problem with Muslim women today, many Muslim women today. Last week I did a video about the problem with Muslim men, so you might want to check that out for more context of why I do, these kinds of videos. Before I begin, I just wanted to say I know that so many Muslim women, I know what they have to go through. I know about their struggles. I know how many Muslim men, on online, on social media, and in our Muslim countries back home, I know how they abuse and harass women. I've seen it. I've posted about it on my Twitter and on my blog. I've seen Muslim men openly online on social media say the most horrible things about Muslim women. So I know what Muslim women go through. Um, I know how no one keeps Muslim men in check. And I know how somehow illogically everyone just chooses to blame Muslim women for everything that goes on. I know Muslim men get away with anything they want to, whether it be, sinning in public, like drinking alcohol and doing drugs and having girlfriends. I know Muslim men get away with it so easily because no one keeps a check on Muslim men. I've talked about this so many times. Um, I know how life can be for Muslim women. I know how difficult it is, the expectations and everything that goes on in our communities. I know Muslim men, can do whatever they want to, but just a rumor of a Muslim woman doing something, I know how, it can just ruin her life. I get it, I've talked about how sad this is, how Muslim women get blamed for everything, how, their lives are controlled while Muslim men get to do whatever they want to. It's such a shame. Um, all that being said, this doesn't make Muslim women innocent. It doesn't make them angels. There are plenty of evil and abusive Muslim women as well, and I've featured them on my Twitter and on my blog as well. I've taken screenshots of Muslim women who can be just as abusive and um, controlling as Muslim men. So, just like in my video that I did last week about the problem with Muslim men, I listed off a bunch of, different aspects that make Muslim men, such a problem today. So I'll do the same thing with Muslim women. So, starting off, and also just to make note, my videos do overlap, so you might hear stuff in this video that I've said before in other videos. So, anyways, yeah. So starting off, the holier than thou women, the self-righteous Muslim women, these kinds of Muslim women are a problem. Because they usually use, hijab and niqab and their housewife status to put down other Muslim women. They do this to show that they are superior kinds of Muslim women. And Muslim women who aren't at their level, they are inferior. On my Twitter, I took so many screenshots of these kinds of women, even on my blog. These self-righteous, holier than thou women who think they're so special because they're so religious. These women think that they literally are the perfect angels, and they use hijab and niqab as a tool to try to sway other people to their point that they are perfect and superior. I fought with these kinds of women so many times on my Twitter. These self-righteous, holier-than-thou women. Because their mentality is so strange. It's like they see themselves as sinless, as perfect angels. And they will always mention how they wear hijab or niqab and how they are, housewives or future housewives, and how they essentially just say they, spread their legs for their husbands as many times as their husbands want to. I've seen Muslim women, these holier than thou women, who have brushed, um, who have, tiptoed around this topic a bit about, about intimacy and how they are, how they their words, they get really graphic, and how they just, whenever their husbands want any kind of intimacy, they are ready for it. So these self-righteous kinds of Muslim women, they're, showing off, what they do, their activities, and their clothing style and everything like that. You see this sick kind of attitude so many times, as I've said, on social media. Mainly, they're mainly on social media, because they can't go to a mall and show off, right? They can't go to some public place and show off, because no one's gonna know them, right? Because they're covered head to toe. So that's why they go on social media and show off. They show off um, their attitudes. They show off what kind of women they are. They show off what kind of clothing they wear. The hijab and niqab. So yeah, these are the self-righteous, holier-than-thou women. They see themselves as perfect and superior, and they viciously attack Muslim women who aren't like them. I've seen it on Twitter. I've taken screenshots of it as well. Another word for these kinds of Muslim women, these self-righteous women, they're pick-me girls. You can Google what that means. So these girls, they look for attention. They want attention, and they do it by telling everybody how they wear hijab or niqab or burqa, and how they are a housewife or will be a housewife. Showing off in the name of Islam, it's something that women do. Men don't do it, but women do it. Muslim women, so many of them, these holier than thou, self-righteous, pick-me girls, they just love showing off in the name of Islam. These self-righteous pick-me girls, I've got screenshots of them, screenshots of news articles, for example, where it talked about rape, and these pick-me girls would immediately write in the comments saying, oh, they can't get raped because they wear hijab and niqab, and at the same time they will victim blame women who are raped. I posted on my blog about, there was a news article from Pakistan where a woman was raped, and in the comments there were so many of these kinds of self-righteous women who are saying, oh, that woman who was raped was probably not wearing a niqab like how I do, or oh, how she probably wasn't wearing hijab like how I do, or oh, she probably wasn't being a housewife, that's why she got raped in the streets. So these self-righteous, filthy women, they victim blame. So that's one aspect. So the next one, so Muslim women, they're supposed to be the spiritual and cultural backbone of the family. They are, and many Muslim women they're not doing this. So children learn most from the mother, and many Muslim mothers do not pass down the Islamic religion to their children. Culture is also very important in Islam. I'll have another video about that. And yeah, so Muslim women are supposed to be the cultural backbone. They're supposed to pass down the culture to their offspring. And many Muslim women aren't doing that. Um, I know Muslim women who, um, where the mother is, excuse me, I know many Muslim families where the mother is the housewife, and you would expect that, a housewife would pass down religion and culture to the offspring. And these women, the children of these women, and it's as if they're completely non-Muslim because these Muslim women did not pass down religion to their children. These Muslim women, many times, they dress very conservatively, with a hijab or niqab or burqa, and their children are wearing, the most sleaziest, tightest clothes, the most revealing clothes. They are doing whatever they want to, and it's because their mother, the primary teacher of children, she did not teach them about Islam. Whether the Muslim woman is working or if she's a housewife or if she's part-time worker, part-time housewife, it doesn't matter. The children learn most from the mother, and Muslim women should do their best to pass down Islam to their offspring. I've said this many times before, and I'm gonna have another video about Muslim women and working and stuff like that. So I said before that, Muslim women should be educated, and they should also, at some point in their lives, be in the workforce. They should also, to some extent, at some point in their lives, financially contribute to the household. We see in the West, I live in Canada, I live in Toronto to be more specific. We see in the West that women here are, they're very skilled and educated and they're successful in their careers. So clearly, Allah gave women the intellect for them to, succeed in school and in the workplace. And we see here in the West, Muslim women also like this. They're succeeding in their education and they're succeeding in the workplace as well. They have the skills, they have the knowledge, and that's why they're successful, and that's great. So yeah, I've said this, Muslim communities in the West and Muslim countries should respect and promote women's education and their place in the workforce, their place in the workplace. We clearly see women here in the West educated and skilled and being successful in whatever job they do. So clearly, Allah gave women the tools and the skill set to be like this. So we should promote all of this. We should promote their education and work. And this is how economies grow, when you have women contributing to the economy, when they work. When you have women stuck at home, then 50% of your, human capital is stuck at home. This is why so many Muslim countries, they struggle with their economy, because there's so many potential doctors, lawyers, scientists, engineers, business professionals, financial experts, accountants, and so forth. So many potential women who could have done these fields, but instead they're stuck at home. And this is why the economies of Muslim countries does not grow. It struggles so much. So, as I've said, Muslim countries need to promote women's education, need to promote their place in the workforce. The Muslim countries need to support the careers of Muslim women. All of that being said, Muslim women should not see their place in the workforce the same way that Muslim men see it. Because men, for example, are not affected by pregnancy, we're not affected by breastfeeding, we're not affected by the need to, we are, we also do nurture, but not to the extent that women do. Women are more nurturing towards children than men. Women are more nurturing towards the family overall, and that's great. That's their nature. So this shouldn't be compromised. Their nurturing attitudes, their nurturing nature towards children and the family and the household, it should not be compromised. Okay, so look, I live in a very liberal Western city here in Canada. We discussed so many times in my school, some more specific political science and sociology classes, how how we discussed that, how society has progressed so much and women's rights have progressed so much, yet they continue to do most of the housework, household chores, and household management and raising of the children. So we've discussed that in my university. So, that tells one thing. So the advances that women have achieved in society, especially in this Western society, the achievements that they have been able to get, whether it's in the workforce or it's in politics or whatever, it still hasn't changed the fact that many of these women, they still are kind of expected to be the primary caretakers of cooking and cleaning and child raising. This Western liberal society that I live in, which gives women equal rights and freedoms and the same rights and freedoms as men, the society still hasn't, it still expects women to be the primary caretakers of the household, of children, of the family. So that just tells, it doesn't matter how much we progress in society, this is still what many women are expected to do when it comes to, household management. And the majority of society, this Western society that we live in, that I live in, where religion is absent from public life, where tradition is absent from public life, still, most women still do most of the cooking and cleaning and child raising, and still the majority of the society here in this Western society, they still expect women to take care of all of that. So that's that. So, when I say that, we should promote education and work among Muslim women, that we should do that. But at the same time, we should make it easier for them so they don't have to compromise their natural abilities and natural skills when it comes to the family and children and their household. Men should obviously help out. So men should help out, with their wives, whatever help they need in cooking, cleaning, and child raising and stuff like that. But still, women are expected to be by society and by their nature to still be the primary caretakers of the household. A true Islamic state, it would, promote education among women, promote their careers, but it would also make it easier for them by giving them, more sick leave, more family leave, more holiday leave, maybe lesser work hours, maybe more options to work from home. So you can, have a career, but also, not neglect your natural duty, natural ability for the household. As I said, I live in a very Western liberal city, and in my sociology and political science classes, we discussed how really um, the only solution here is, to give women more sick leave, more holiday leave, more parental leave, lesser work hours, because many women still naturally will put their children and their natural um, instincts to manage the household, they will still usually put it over careers. So that's why it should be, that's why we discussed in my classes that the solution is, to give more work, more paid leave, lesser work hours, and stuff like that. And a true Islamic state would do that same thing, you know. So, yeah, so many women here in the West, many who don't have religion, they'll still want to maybe part time or quarter of the time be a homemaker because that's just natural and nothing wrong with it. So Muslim women should also consider this. While at the same time being employed at some time in her life, whether it's before marriage or during marriage, before childbirth, or when the kids are older. And at the same time, Muslim women should consider when it's necessary for them to be at home. So, for example, when the kids are really small, or when the woman is really pregnant, or when her husband has longer work hours, longer work days. Or when her husband has to go out of town for work and stuff like that. So she should always consider, when it's appropriate to go to work and when it's appropriate to stay at home. Also, Muslim women, they should not choose careers over a family. Do it side by side. Take a more flexible career when you have young children. And also in Islam, a woman's is supposed to be a supporter and advisor to her husband. You know, she's supposed to consult with him. She's supposed to advise him. Um, in any major decision he has to make for the family. She's supposed to consult and advise with him and stuff like that. So don't choose a career over a family, because a lot of times women do regret it later on in the future. When they're a little too old to have children, they do regret not having a family when they were younger. So the best solution is, to have a career, a flexible one, but not at the expense of putting it over your family. Excuse me. The ideal solution is to have a flexible career so you can do it side by side while having a family. Okay? Don't choose a career that puts you over having a family. You can have a career before marriage. You can have a career during marriage if you don't have kids. But you should consider taking a more flexible option when you are pregnant, when you have young children, or when your husband is working late hours or out of town and stuff like that. Because then who's going to manage the household then? So that was the other aspect. Don't choose career over family. Do it side by side. We see here in the West many Muslim women who are able to do it successfully. They're successful in their careers, and they are successful in having a family, raising children. I have my aunties. They have careers, and they were very successful in raising children. And now that their children are older, these women can do a little more time to work. And at the same time, they never neglected their household chores. Even though they work, they are also the primary cookers and cleaners, and of course advisors to their husbands. So that was the other aspect. So another aspect is I'm going to talk about hijab and niqab. So I've said this before with evidence in my previous videos and on my blog that hijab and niqab and burqa and jilbab and abaya, these are not requirements in Islam. These are all Arab culture. It's all Arab culture. It's not a requirement in Islam. And I've said this with evidence repeatedly. And every debate that I've had with people who say hijab is mandatory or niqab is mandatory, every debate that I've had, they have compromised somewhat on their position. Because the evidence is there that hijab and niqab and burqa and jilbab is not explicitly commanded in the Quran or in any authentic hadith. You can see my video on hijab, and you can also see my blog where I've pointed this out, and I have brought evidence from scholars as well, conservative scholars. That being said, there's nothing wrong with Muslim women who wears nice clothes or wears professional clothes, or if she happens to be beautiful, if she happens to have nice eyes, a nice face, nice hair. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong if she's naturally curvy. Only thing wrong is when she wears tight clothes, revealing clothes, short clothes that purposely shows off these body parts. Or if she does something seductive with her behavior, and as I've mentioned this before, this can be done by Muslim women who are wearing hijab and niqab, or they can be done by Muslim women or non-Muslim women who are just completely naked. The seductive behavior part. The Muslim women can... one time I went to this Somali wedding, and in the Somali culture, for some reason, it includes twerking. They love twerking for some reason. So the wedding we went to, we saw a dance that was going on, and all these women who were wearing hijab and jilbab, and they were twerking like crazy. So that is a seductive behavior. That is a sexual kind of behavior. And we see it being done by Muslim women who are covered head to toe. So, yeah, that is wrong. And showing off your body is wrong. So, yeah, as I said, there's nothing wrong with Muslim women not wearing hijab or niqab, nothing wrong with them being beautiful. That's fine. Only thing wrong is them showing off their body or doing something seductive and sexual. So, yeah, having said all of this, many Muslim women do not dress appropriately, and many of them don't have, proper behavior, like the Somali twerkers that I mentioned. Unfortunately, many Muslim women dress and act just like non-Muslim women in the West. Yeah, Muslim men are also bad, as I mentioned before. But when it comes to like clothing and sexual immodest behavior, women have the edge over men in that department. Women have, sex appeal, men don't really have that. Women have body parts that men are sexually aroused at. Okay, so I've mentioned this several times. We are sexually aroused at breasts, bottoms, legs, and when when they wear clothing that shows off the outline of their vaginas. This is what arouses men. This is what men look for in women. First things. So for some reason, many Muslim women don't realize this. They will show off their bodies. They will show off their breasts and bottoms and legs, and they don't realize that men get aroused at this. There's many Muslim women for some reason who just wear very horrible clothing. There's Muslim women who show off their bottoms, their breasts and legs. And then there's Muslim women who wear jilbab and hijab, but still wear tight and revealing clothes. A woman's breasts and her bottom and her legs and the outline of her vagina. This is what horny teen boys look at. This is what married men have on their phones and computers. This is what body parts they're looking at about women. They're not looking at her hair. They're not looking at her eyes. They're not looking at her hands. They're looking at the body parts, which I mentioned, that causes arousal in men. You can take a horny teen boy's phone and look at his search history. He's looking at nude women. He's looking at porn. He's looking at a woman's bottom, a woman's vagina, a woman's breasts. He doesn't care about her hair, doesn't care about her face. This is how men are programmed. This is what men like. This is why men go to strip clubs. Because these kinds of women who show off their breasts and bottoms and legs, this causes arousal in men, and this is why men go to these strip clubs. This is why men go to porn websites. This is why men go to OnlyFans. Because this is where men can see all of this. And horny teen boys. So yeah, there's Muslim women who just, who are not careful with their clothing. And then there's Muslim women who just get too comfortable around men and befriend them and go to their apartments and houses and vice versa. So they befriend people of the opposite sex, of the opposite gender. And as we know, men and women can never just be friends. Sometimes, a lot of times rape and sexual assault happens to women, and many times they know who the rapist is. They know who sexually assaulted them. It was a person who they thought was their friend, a male friend who took advantage of them. Yeah, obviously men are at fault, but these men act on urges, right? They take advantage of these women and girls because these women and girls gave them an opportunity. I don't victim blame. I've repeatedly fought with men and self-hating women who blame women for rape and sexual assault. But these kinds of women who befriend these men, who go to these environments like nightclubs and bars and drunk parties where rape and sexual assault is common, these women are putting themselves in these situations. Okay? So don't befriend people of the opposite sex. This goes for men as well, Muslim men as well. Don't befriend women who are not related to you. Okay, because men only want one thing when they are friends with women. So I mentioned this before. I can't tell you how many times I've seen in public and on social media where Muslim women have their cleavage showing, or they're wearing skimpy bikinis. Not just bikini, but like skimpy bikinis. It's just embarrassing. It's sick. It's disgusting. Like, have some respect for your Muslim name. Have some respect for your religion. Have some respect for your ancestors who were Muslim for 1400 years. We in my liberal Western schools here, we talked about how all of these magazines and they show these women in bikinis and sexualize them and everything. We discussed that, and we have Muslim women who are for some reason dressing just like that. So evil Muslim women exist. They include the holier than thou righteous ones. But it also includes like psychotic and sociopaths. Yeah, Muslim men are like this too, um, but I feel like when it comes to emotional blackmailing and mental games and stuff, it's the evil women who do this, not men. Men are more physical in their fighting. Women can be, emotional and mental in their fighting. So that's a problem too, because as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there are evil Muslim women who go will do whatever it takes to make others suffer. And my family has experienced this. There's evil Muslim women who to this day are still targeting us and do whatever it takes to make sure we suffer. And they are, they use their emotional tactics and mental blackmailing to do it. Another aspect is there's Muslim women who have adopted this third wave radical feminist ideology, especially when it comes to abortion and LGBTQ. Like, for example, BuzzFeed. I have a video on BuzzFeed coming up soon. It's like a cesspool of these radical feminist women and LGBTQ people. And I troll a lot on BuzzFeed. I've been blocked like 40, 50 times. I keep having to make new emails and user accounts. So there are Muslim women who are authors of articles about LGBTQ or how they promote radical third wave feminism. Don't be like that. Radical third wave feminism and LGBTQ, it's a white Western Eurocentric ideology. It has nothing to do with us. These guys are against nature. They're against a woman's nature. So it's annoying to see Muslim women who have adopted this radical third wave ideology. It goes against our religion, and it just in general goes against nature. So both Muslim men and women can get carried away and experience times of misguidance. This is natural and normal, and is expected of every Muslim, even by Allah Himself. He expects us to be at times misguided. The important thing to know is that you're wrong when you're misguided, and the important thing is to fix yourself and learn why not to do these certain sinful activities. For Muslim men, in my opinion, it's like having a dirty search history or liking inappropriate pictures and videos, and trying to date girls and stuff. And for Muslim women, it's something that men don't have, and it's that sex appeal that I mentioned. So when it comes to misguidance, Muslim women are more likely to be wearing inappropriate clothes and stuff like that. So Islam is a patriarchal religion, and there's nothing wrong with it. But this doesn't mean that men are to boss and control and dominate women. We look at the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Sahaba, and we see how they never dominated or bossed women around. So yeah, Islam is patriarchal, and nothing wrong with that. So so Muslim women shouldn't wrestle for control of the household and the family. Men are the heads of the household. Men are the primary breadwinners, primary people for when it comes to financially protecting the family. So women should not, try and take control of that. Men need respect from women in this domain. And as I've mentioned, of course, Islam requires men to consult with their wives and take in their advice. So women are supposed to be advisors and consultors to their husbands, while men make all the final and overall decisions. I mean, this is how pretty much every family, regardless of religion or lack of works. This is how here in the West, this is how it often is. Men are still at the end of the day the final decision makers after consulting their wives and stuff. And when women try to wrestle that away from men, then it results in chaos and a breakdown of the family and divorce. So Muslim women should know that at the end of the day, men are the heads of the household, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is how society has been. This is how society still is in many parts of the world, and even here in the West as well. So consult your husbands, advise them, but don't make the overall decision, because that's what men have to do. This is something else. Muslim women need to be vocal and stand up against Muslim men who are not virgins, who drink, who smoke, and so on. Muslim women should be very open in condemning these kinds of men because, as I said, Muslim men get away with so many things, and no one says anything. In your marriage clause, make sure that it says your husband's body count is 0, and that he's never done drugs or drank alcohol. Muslim women should never settle for Muslim men who have a history of drugs and alcohol and who've had girlfriends and stuff. Be vocal about that. Because no one is saying anything. As I said, Muslim men get away with so many things. No one says anything. So the misguidance of Muslim women, it's a huge issue because women are responsible for passing down Islam to their offspring. If there's a downfall there, then there is a downfall of the children, and Islam is erased from this family. The 1400 years of Islam that dominated your family, it's gone now. Okay, I think I'll end it here.